9:08, 8 past 9.
John Cass and Jake Hartford in for Bruce and Dan on 89 WOS.
Boy, we are going to get into a lot of stuff today. We may just have to go 4 hours today. No, we can't do that. This guy by the name of Rush at 11 o'clock would get very upset.
Yeah, I'm telling you, though, there's certain things that have to be dealt with, Jake.
Including the jackals. We'll get into that later.
Me being one of them. A pack of...
Yesterday, while President Hillary Clinton was meeting with the Egyptian president, the Libyan president, and all the other heads of state, the president was on The View.
Yes, the guy who bowed to the king of Saudi Arabia.
You won't let that go, will you?
I will never let it go. The president of the United States...
I'm just supposed to be eye candy here for you guys.
Yes, he was surrounded by women. And Joy Behar.
Joy Behar, and I hope someday that a chia head is made for Joy Behar, because that would be pretty scary. He's sitting with them on The View.
Which was taped on Monday.
Yes, but the tape is out while he's hiding from the heads of state, and he sends Hillary to do that.
I wonder what got better ratings yesterday, him on The View or him doing the speech at the UN.
And this is how the republic falls. And this is how freedom is lost. Right? Because obviously the View is the more,
He was going for the votes. I understand that. Don't you understand that?
Yeah, but...
how many votes are you going to get at the UN or meeting with the Egyptian president?
There's this thing, and Stoddard came up with it earlier on the earlier show from The Hill. She said basically, it's his job.
It's his job to...
So why aren't you out golfing right now instead of being on the radio?
He'd like to do that too, but he can't do everything. He's not a Superman.
Playing basketball? Golfing?
He also was asked about... And this is the one that drove my wife nuts yesterday. I had to strap her down and buckle up, and because she was watching this, and it was the question about, and Joy Behar asked this question about the attack on the consul at the embassy in Benghazi.
I heard Hillary Clinton say that it was an act of terrorism. Is it? What do you say?
Well, we're still doing an investigation. There's no doubt that the kind of weapons that were used, the ongoing assault, that it wasn't just a mob action. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't have all the information yet, and so we're still gathering it. Uh-huh. But what's clear is that around the world, there's still a lot of threats out there.
He cannot say the word terror. He cannot say it. His press secretary said it Friday.
If he says the word terror, the next question is, well, didn't you dismantle the military in Egypt and in Libya? Aren't you the one who basically pushed the so-called freedom fighters to power in Libya? Didn't they basically coordinate with your administration to help destroy Gaddafi? So in other words, he owns it. That's why he can't say terror. And I don't expect Joy Behar or any of these other flesh-eating harpies that are on that television show to actually ask a question. Do you remember when Rod Blagojevich was on that show? I know, okay. In the magic of radio, you have to see Jake's face, but I can't describe it. It was one of bliss. Anyway, so he shows up on The View, and Joy Behar says, "Can I touch your hair?"
Politics.
No further questions, Your Honor. That's The View. And that's where the president was, instead of dealing with...
But, it's been 2 weeks. The Libyan president again yesterday said it was terrorism. But of course, he wouldn't know because that's just the country he's president of. The president's press secretary, Jay Carney, the other day said it's self-evident that it was terrorism.
After his BSing
one of his security people who testified in front of Congress last week said it was terrorism.
National security guy.
But it's terrorism for everybody except the president, and we don't know yet. What is he waiting for?
Because if he says it,
I understand.
Then he's got to do something.
Here we go. It's like the wind-up doll over here. You're going to say the same thing. I understand. It's just, to a lot of people, it's frustrating. It really is. Now, he also talked about life...
Wind me up again if you ask me a question so I can answer.
I'm just supposed to be eye candy here.
Here comes here's another question. He was asked about life after the White House.
I love teaching. I miss teaching. And, I'm not sure it'll necessarily be in a classroom, but the idea of being able to go around in various cities and helping to create mentorships and apprenticeships and just giving young people this sense of possibility.
He can't create jobs. There's a headline today, family income since he's been president is down over 8%. People who used to have regular jobs are just getting by on part-time jobs. That category is up 30%. And he's going to go teach the kids? Who was the guy in, that used to be the law professor, that movie?
Houseman.
Houseman.
I shall take your minds, they're made of mush, and turn you into lawyers.
You know, when Obama was teaching at the University of Chicago, was he teaching 5 days a week, 8 hours a day?
Did he have patches on his corduroy jacket and a little pipe in his mouth talking about Adam Smith and the Constitution and the wealth of nations and the interplay between capital and freedom? No.
How much did he teach?
Believe in it.
How much did he teach?
I don't know. Maybe he was really a lecturer, wasn't he? Isn't that the title they gave him? That's when he wasn't dealing with Tony Rezko on the House.
Yeah, well, they've since gone back since he was there and kind of changed the description of what he did. I know there's been controversy about that, but I don't know. He has a job to do now.
He's not doing it. But you know what? Isn't he up in Ohio?
He's in Ohio. Yeah, he's in Toledo today.
But isn't he up? I mean, in the polls, right?
Well, it's coming down to two states, Ohio and Virginia. That's what it's going to come down to.
And Ohio's already destroyed. Romney was destroyed in Ohio with the he gave cancer to the lady story.
9:15. That's John Cass. I'm Jake Hartford. Time for traffic right now on 89 WL.
89.
9:16. John Cass with Jake Hartford in for Bruce and Dan, who are in for Don and Roma. We're going to take your calls. 591-8900. Hector in St. Charles. Good morning, Hector.
Yeah, hey, I saw him on The View yesterday. I was really impressed. Would it be going too far to call him President Fruit Loop now? Maybe he can get a job in the fashion industry after he's done being president. He can teach them, how to swish when they walk or something like that.
Well, some people like eye candy, some people like Fruit Loops, some people like beef sandwiches.
Well, Hector, we're three of us obviously are beef sandwich guys, dry and hot. But Hector, let me ask you, what kind of shoes did, since you're a fashion expert, what kind of shoes did the president have? Were they like Jimmy Choo?
Yeah, he should get something with like an open toe, and he can wear like socks with it or something like that.
Okay, thank you, Hector.
We're going off the rail there.
Well, that's because of you, John. You foster this type of discussion.
Right, I'm not like high-minded as you are here.
Mark in Northbrook, good morning. You're on 89 WOS, Mark.
Hey, gentlemen, how are you today?
Hey, Mark.
Good. Hey, I have to tell you, I love the polls. I say keep pumping them out the way they're pumping them out harder and faster, and focus on them, because the more they do that, the more of that base of Obama isn't going to come out and vote. If you want an example of it, look what happened in Wisconsin. Governor Walker was losing, and they called the race 49 minutes after the polls closed, and he won by a greater margin than he won in 2008 and 10.
Except, Mark, the problem is that Scott Walker's not the nominee. Mitt Romney is.
I understand that, but Scott Walker was the devil. Scott Walker was the devil. He was the punching bag of the left for 6 months up until that election. So I'm not so concerned about the polls. The polls are skewed. They're coming from they're coming from individuals, frankly, who have an agenda, and they're trying to make that look. Listen, go ahead and say that Obama's up. They're saying he's up 10 in Ohio. I don't believe it for a second. I don't believe that for a second.
I remember. Mark, it was pretty close years ago when Mondale was almost neck and neck with Reagan. Remember that chick? It was like close, right? It didn't turn out that way. But on the other hand, what about this news out of Chicago that among young people, voter registration is down?
Of course,
what does that tell us about?
Because they've lost hope. They're still, and Paul Ryan had it right. They're sitting at home in their parents' houses with no money in their pockets, nowhere to live, and they're staring up at fading Obama posters.
But they have the iPhone 5.
They were duped.
Watching Modern Family isn't as cool as having a girlfriend in a car, I guess, huh?
That's right. I mean, they've been duped by their academic institutions. They've been duped by their professors, the lecturers, pundits. They've been duped by this president of the Democratic Party. The same way so many of these other special interests have been duped.
Thank you, Mark.
And where are they today?
There was a story out yesterday where enterprising person went out and interviewed a couple dozen of Obama supporters.
Oh, one of those well-respected journalists.
Well, it doesn't matter. But the questions that were asked were about Osama bin Laden. Not one of them knew Osama bin Laden was dead. Not one. They asked about President Obama's running mate, Paul Ryan. They commented they liked him. The fact that it bothered you that Paul Ryan was black didn't bother them. And the fact that Obama's a Mormon didn't bother them with that either. And also pro-life. My point is, the electorate out there are some pretty stupid people.
Idiocracy.
And that's what you're going up against.
Yeah.
It's like the people who study all the judges for the judicial ballot. They know all the different rulings and this and that. And they're offset by the people who are just picking by nationality on the name.
And some of the judges changed their names to put an MC in front of it, like McCass or McHartford, in order to win in Cook County.
Yeah. And judges, of course, aren't eye candy like the president is. The fact people are.
The fact that he said eye candy, we're just not going to let that go, are we, Jake?
Can you imagine Harry Truman saying that?
How about Ronald Reagan?
Being calling himself eye candy?
Or Bush. What if George Bush said it? You think Bill Maher and HBO might be interested in that?
9:21, back after this on 89 WL.
89. Breaking news.